So I talked about resource flexibility is one of those groups of decisions that companies have to do to acquire those competitive capabilities, right? And now we're going to get into capital intensity, right? So capital intense means that the cost of equipment is greater if it's a high capital intense. So imagine that industries that have big equipment and huge facilities and you have a lot of money on that and very few people working on them, right? And low capital intense are those facilities and places where you have a lot of people, a lot of labor, and very simple equipment, more kind of small, usually smaller and cheaper equipment. Okay. So again, that's have a impact on your cost, for example, right? So if I have a low capital intense, I have more labor, and labor is expensive, so I'll increase the cost of the product. If I can automate the process, I can have more equipment, more automation. I'll reduce the labor cost, right? And will give me more quality. We're doing the same product over and over again, so equipment have usually a better repeatability than human. So I have some trade-offs when I go from one and another, right? So again, if you go to examples, fast food restaurant, although they pay very low, they have a lot of people there, right? So go to McDonald's, you have to look at there, or Wendy's, or you guys are probably going to Chick-fil-A, right? So usually, my students love Chick-fil-A. I noticed some of you guys do. So better use Chick-fil-A instead of McDonald's examples next time. So I go to Chick-fil-A and you see all that people there. Have some equipment there. They are specialized doing a few things, but they're not expensive. Just Novin, fries and stuff like that. So that's more a low capital intense kind of industry, right? And the high capital intense is more like a heavy machinery, kind of chemical plants and paper plants, and kind of more that kind of business, right? Or even if you think about a ATM machine is a high capital intense, right? But the difference there is that you it makes it cheaper, right, to go to a bank to pay a bill or something, or to get money. If you put an ATM there, that's just the cost of maintaining that. But then if you want to do other stuff, you have to go to a bank, right? So it gives you productivity, but it reduces the flexibility, right, going into more capital intense equipment. Okay. And automation, that's how we're using capital, or using equipment instead of labor, right? So usually, again, we do have some cost savings if it's done properly, and increase in quality productivity, but it reduces the flexibility, right? The customization and taking an order and something like that, right? So if you think about, there's big movements in the food business about automation, right? So I remember the first time I went to Panera Bread, and I saw that they put iPads for you guys to make an order, right? Or Starbucks have the app, and you can order through the app, and they make it for you, and just go there and pick it up, right? So what are you doing there? Well, you're, instead of using a person as a register to take your order, just repeat exactly what you just told her. They figured that out, and I say that it took a little bit of time for them to figure that out. That we can do that in an iPad, right? And then we know how to click the buttons. We know how to select our product and our food, right? The big fear there was that people were going to buy less if there's someone there. But McDonald's actually, again, McDonald's, did a research, and they found out that people actually order about 20-25% more if they're doing by themselves. Why do you guys think that? Well, if you're doing by yourself, there's no pressure. You can take as much time as you want, right? When you're talking to someone, there's always that silence and pressure, and you have to say everything you want and then go to the next one. So because of that social pressure, people usually take more time on the iPads, but you can have 3 or 4 instead of one person. But they order more. When they realized that, they thought, well, we're going to reduce cost, increase productivity, and we're going to increase revenue, right? So that's a no-brainer. So that's why other people are doing that as well. Not saying that you have to take cashiers out. You need some people that are not good with technology, but that's going to be a big change especially in these kind of fast food restaurants, right? Maybe one day we don't need anyone there. Just sit at a table, have an iPad, and someone just bring your food. Why do we need someone to take your order, right? In any restaurant. So the last group of decisions, it's about customer involvement, right? So customer involvement, as the name already say, is how involvement is the customers into the decision process, right? So it can be either high or low involvement, right? So what will be a high customer involvement in order? So we talked a little bit when I was doing the example about the lunch, deciding where to go to lunch and the order winners and order qualifiers about Subway, right? So is Subway high customer involvement or low customer involvement? Well, you are involved in all the decision process, right? So you not only choose, if you want a meatball sandwich and what kind of bread, but everything that goes into that sandwich. So that's an example of high customer involvement, right? If you go to Firehouse Subs, which someone may argue that they're similar sandwiches, you're not that involved. You have to pick from a menu, and oh, I want this sandwich. Boom, they give you this sandwich. You can say, oh, take out this, but it's not as involvement as in Subway, right? And what are the difference in benefits and drawbacks from there, right? So higher customer involvement means that you have to spend some time with the customer, right? So it takes more time because the person doesn't know exactly what you want. You need to decide, and every time you need to tell her or him what you need. And the low customer involvement is like that, right? Like quick, they know what you want, they're going to make it, so it allows them to do a larger volume of product, usually with low customer involvement, because there's very few changes in the product, so you can do it very, very fast. High customer involvement, you have to understand what the customer wants and go back and forth, so usually that's make the process takes a little bit more time, right? So here's some advantage and disadvantage. You guys can read through that, but what also customer high customer involvement gives you, it gives you a little bit more cost, but it gives you customization, which sometimes is what customer wants, or flexibility, which sometimes is what customer wants, right? So I want my sandwich exactly with everything I want to decide, right? Each ingredient. I don't want a package, right? So if you are one of those people, right, you're gonna value the feedback or choosing exactly all the ingredients, right? So these are kind of decisions that the companies have to make in terms of their product, how they're going to position themselves, how to create value for customers. Okay.